How can greatness e'er die? How can song disperse in the sky? How can hopes and dreams fade? How the warrior's sharp blade become dust? Was victory alive? I stood there and pondered the great deeds of our past, how like clouds in the sunset no glory can last. Even we, as we labor to achieve some bright end, must accept after glory that the night will descend. I dreamed a broad rainbow over thicket and thorn, over crags that cold tarry, your hopes are forlorn. Oh, too oft in my dreaming, courage turned to despair, till I learned that success is but the courage to dare. As I gazed and thought sadly of Tara's demise, suddenly I saw her walls rise, saw her hungry goals, heard her people's brave calls, as though time had doffed a disguise. And I knew in that moment the deeds that we do never die, each victory is true. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, till our gladness in life's ever new. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, till our gladness in life's ever new.
Our reading today is taken from the Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 29. Self-effort, too, is needed. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. These past weeks, we discussed the need for balancing self-effort with receptivity to divine grace. Both are important in the spiritual life. Passive dependence on grace hasn't the magnetism to attract grace. Boastful self-confidence, however, which closes itself off from the higher divine power, is shallow, brittle, and given life's many uncertainties, susceptible to ultimate failure. There's a story in the Bible that illustrates the need to put forth personal effort so as to draw magnetically on the divine power. The story occurs in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 8. But as he went, the crowds nearly suffocated him. Among them was a woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and who had derived no benefit from anybody's treatment. She came up behind Jesus and touched the edge of his cloak. As a result, her hemorrhage stopped immediately. "Who is it who touched me?" Jesus asked. When everybody denied it, Peter remonstrated, "Master, the crowds are all round, pressing on you every side." But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me. I felt power going out from me." When the woman realized that she had not escaped notice, she came forward trembling and fell at his feet and admitted before everyone why she had touched him, adding that she had been instantaneously cured. "Daughter," Jesus said, "it is by your faith that you have been healed. Go in peace." Self-confidence and self-effort are necessary, as the ignition of a car is necessary to the motor. Of what use is the ignition, however, if the motor itself will not work? Wise is he who recognizes the real power in the universe and guides his life by that supreme power. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter, "To those who meditate on me as their very own, ever united to me by incessant worship, I make good their deficiencies and render permanent their gains." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Last week, Hanuman talked to us about self-reliance. This week, the topic is self-effort. A lot of stuff about the self, as it needs to be. My name is Surendra. I'm here with Lorna, and our blessers today are Mari and Hanuman. It's our joy to be with you, and we thank you for joining us. You know, at Ananda, we put a lot of stock in prayer and affirmation. This is not unique to us. Almost every, if not all, spiritual organizations do the same. But prayer and affirmation can take us only so far. They're like Sherpas that carry part of the load on our trek to the summit of self-realization. But we have to carry ourselves, and that is the real task at hand. In 1952, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay attempted to scale Mount Everest, becoming the first to do so. They affirmed they could do it, and they prayed that it be God's will. But every step they took required personal effort. There's a story that Paramahansa Yogananda would tell his disciples to illustrate this point, that great success takes more than a little commitment. It's about a man who read in the Bible that faith can move mountains. This impressed him, and he decided to put it to the test. Outside the window of his home was just a hill, but it obstructed the view to a beautiful lake beyond. And so he began to pray all day to God to move that mountain aside. He prayed, and when he went to bed that night, he could hardly wait for morning to see the effect. And when he awoke, the mountain was still there. The hill was still there. It hadn't moved so much as an inch. Needless to say, God tends to be unresponsive to prayers that are merely of a selfish motive, especially from those who aren't inclined to pray very often as it is. Sorry, my headset seems to be having a mind of its own and wishing to move around. Thank you. Success in life and on the spiritual path, as Master often said, is 50% the result of God's grace, 25% the Guru's support, and 25% our own effort. If you've been with Ananda even a short time, you've probably heard that repeated more than once. At first, the message seems to be that we have to put out only 25% to get whatever it is that we want. And if that is the extent of your effort, you, like the man who prayed to have the hill moved aside, are going to be sorely disappointed. That's because even though our part of this amounts to only 25%, we have to give 100% of that 25 to attract the 75 that God and Guru contribute. Life has not been designed as a cruise. Just look at the life of Swami Kriyananda, if you are familiar with it. He was constantly challenged, often severely, and yet he never gave less than that 100%. Was it worth it? Well, that's an easy question to answer, because he was ever loving, ever blissful, and at the end of his life he attained his soul freedom. You can't ask for success to be greater or more effective than that. What about sacred rituals? Do they help? Every religious and spiritual path has a litany of these. Muslims pray 5 times a day to God. Sufis whirl and dance. Christians have their sacraments. Hindus do pujas and aratis, and we'll do one as part of this worship service later today. These are ways of offering ourselves to God. But the power, their power, depends on the attitude and the attunement of the person doing the practice. Ritual itself is nothing more than a form of activity. As Yogananda would often tell his disciples, God watches the heart. The words we use in our prayers and affirmations, they must resonate with the heart in order to have the power to attract God's response. In talking about self-effort, we soon come to what seems to be a paradox. The idea that God is the doer, not us, and that we are essentially instruments through which the doing is done. Not very flattering, is it? At least not to the ego. The ego doesn't like this idea at all. It says, hey, what does God have to do with my decision to interlace my fingers or turn my head to the side? I didn't have to ask permission. I just did it. And if I want to go out and try to rob a bank, I can do that too, can't I? So what's the deal with this God is the doer business? Yes, we have free will. And yes, we can use it wisely or otherwise. If I try to rob a bank, God will not intervene. That's where the law of karma comes into play, a topic for another time perhaps. But the power, the source of that power is not ours. It is God-given. And if it were withdrawn, there would be no movement or life at all. God is the doer. But just to be clear, there's nothing passive about our role in this process. Think of Master's prayer. I will reason, I will, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity. In other words, use God's power to accelerate your spiritual growth and to enhance your happiness. Prayers and efforts are no guarantee of success. But you can be sure of this: if your faith in God is unwavering, you will be granted more of what truly matters than any earthly pleasure can possibly provide. Earlier this morning, we affirmed the the importance of renouncing life's non-essentials. True renunciation is a gift of ourselves offered back to God, not so much as a sacrifice, but as a way to our own freedom of heart, mind, and soul. Renunciation is letting go of what we think we want, according to the ego, to what we truly want, inner peace and joy. Hillary and Tenzing truly wanted to reach the summit of Everest. They would also have liked to have a nice warm bed to sleep in on the way up and fresh home-cooked food as well. But the weight of such things would have prevented them from reaching their goal. And so it is with us too, in every aspect of our careers, relationships, responsibilities, and especially on the path to self-realization. The less weight we have to carry, the lighter our karmic load becomes, even as the demands increase. We find that every step we take gets a little easier, even when the elevation gets steeper and the challenges become more intense. We sometimes joke that we are works in progress. This is true of each of us, and it will remain so until we attain nirvikalpa samadhi, eternal reunion with God. The only question is, how positively, energetically, and enthusiastically are we striving to speed the process of our spiritual improvement? A work in progress implies that someone is investing actual work in making the changes necessary for progress to occur. When I ask myself, for what purpose was I made? The answer does not vary. I am here to make the effort to reach my highest potential, oneness with Spirit. Human life is the playing field on which this battle is waged. And I know that self-offering and self-effort are the most reliable means of winning my soul's freedom. Giving that total 25% is also the way to drive away our pettiness, our moodiness, and our worries. Self-effort is also about the effort to avoid unnecessary effort. Now, how's that for a puzzling statement? I'm referring in particular to making mistakes, which, of course, we are prone by our human nature to do. In correcting them, we enhance our ability to be happy and be closer to God. But part of the art of conservation of energy is to watch what others do wrong and withhold the effort to do the same thing ourselves. The great Groucho Marx put it this way: learn from others' mistakes, because you will never live long enough to make them all yourself. We know this life has been designed to be a test. It's a test of will, of courage, of our attunement and our behavior. Every day arrives with a new set of challenges, but most of these are not new at all. They're simply repackaged lessons that we have yet to learn, the ones that continue to cycle back to us until we do the work to put them behind us. They're the self-defeating habits that we haven't changed, the moodiness we have yet to overcome, the desires and attachments that bind us to Maya. Maya means delusion in Hindu, and bind us thus to anxiety and to suffering. It is these storms of Maya that keep us huddled in our tent at Everest Base Camp, so to speak, waiting for the weather to change, when in fact we can change the weather within ourselves in an instant, simply by changing our attitude, our energy, and our willingness. Everyone wants to be happy, but very few people are. Why? Could it be as simple as a misdirection of our self-effort? Happiness and self-effort go hand in hand. I'm reminded of this when I think of people like Jyotish and Devi, our worldwide spiritual directors. They get up early, meditate until breakfast, and then do whatever is the next thing in front of them throughout the day. No complaining, no slacking off, because they know that whatever comes to them is coming from God for their spiritual growth and for the good of all. Are they perfect in every choice they make? No one is. But in lovingly giving even their stumbles and their setbacks to God, as well as everything else, they keep moving closer to Him and to their own soul's liberation. When Trishti and I were managing Ananda's ashram in Pune, India, we began each day with our staff with an affirmation, and it was very often this one: within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Let's do that together. Within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Can you think of a day when there was nothing in front of you that needed to be done? Maybe you didn't want to see it, but it was there. Something always there. And whatever it is, it's an invitation to overcome a resistance, to do a little more than before, and to do it with a smile. God and Guru have a special delivery of grace they would love to add to every effort that we make in that direction. I'd like to end with a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This is number 66. Burn thou my frailties in the furnace of trials. In the furnace of trials, the ore of my life is being purified. The fire of experience melts away all my delusions' dross. O divine artisan, burn away all my impurities. Bring out in me the steel of endurance and hone it to a fine edge of deep calmness. Forge in me from the tempered steel of mental balance sharp swords of self-control and firm tenacity. With the weapon of inner equilibrium, teach me to fight every enemy of distraction. Om Shanti. God bless. Let's just take a moment of reflection.
Lord, I call you, my Lord. Lord, I call you. Many years I have longed for your sight. In the darkness with tears of devotion, offered candles in prayer to your light. How much longer, friend, must I cry your name? I am yours, ever yours. Will you come? Long I've called you, my Lord. Long I've called you. Many years I have longed for your sight. Bathe the darkness with tears of devotion, offered candles in prayer to your light. How much longer, friend, must I cry your name? I am yours, ever yours. Will you
Good morning. Every year, well, let me start. There's a fairly sizable Zen community here in Portland, as you may know. They help support a Zen monastery that's up in Kladskanai, which is about an hour and a half drive from here. And every year, they do a 24-hour chant for peace. So from noon on Saturday until noon on Sunday, it's continuous chanting. And each hour features a different group that has chanting as part of their traditions. So you'll hear folks from just everywhere, various Christian groups, various Indian or Hindu-based groups, Judaism, Native Americans, Sikhs. It's quite a variety. And it goes from just sitting and chanting to some have movement and there's dance. And it's really quite nice. They do everything they can to provide a good supportive environment. They offer, there's places to sleep, to rest. They have snacks and food through the 24 hours. And it's a marvelous thing. So they've been doing this for about 16 years. Ananda has been going for 15 of those 16 years. And this year is no exception. I'm telling you about this about 2 weeks in advance. So if you're interested, you can plan for this on your calendar. It is 2 weeks from yesterday. It's August 3rd from noon until, 2 weeks from right now, about an hour from now. And we will be playing at about 9 o'clock on that Saturday evening for 1 or possibly 2 hours. And I would like to invite all of you to come. I know that's unlikely, but there it is. If you'd like to know more about it, any more detail or transportation up there, we carpool up. I'll be lounging around out in the foyer after service. Please come talk to me. It's a wonderful opportunity. If you haven't visited this thing before, I highly recommend it. You'll have a great time. Very devotional, very sweet. And you get to meet seekers from all other kinds of paths. It's wonderful. So thank you.
I also want to let you know what's a little closer at hand. Today, right after service, we have our Healing Prayer Council, so all are always welcome to attend that. After we go out with joy, we give people a few moments and we ring the bell, and you can come back in here and join in prayers. Next weekend, we have a lot of fun because we have 2 guests coming. You can pick up one of these little flyers at the desk here. Saganish and Navashan from Palo Alto, our colony down there, will be here. They've been to Portland before, but this time they are leading us in a really fun weekend. Friday night, evening, kirtan at the Living Joy Center at our community. We're going to be outside on the green, and they're both wonderful musicians and kirtan leaders, and we'll have our other musicians join them, and it'll be a beautiful, devotional, rousing evening of chanting and music. Then on Saturday, they're offering a workshop, retreat sort of all day here at the temple on devotion. Developing deeper love for God is what they're calling it. And that promises to be a really wonderful day as well. And then they will be with us Sunday morning for service, and Saganesh will be doing the talk. If you have any questions about that, let us know. It's helpful for you to sign up online or here at the front desk so that we know how many people are coming. If you don't know these 2 young men, there's going to be our newsletter. It's going to go out tomorrow, a weekly newsletter. If you're not on that list, let us know. You should be, so you know what's going on. That list will go out. They've actually created a video introducing themselves and giving us a little sample of their energy and what they can do. It's really fun. And so that link will go out with our newsletter. And we just want to continue to invite. We have more visiting ministers on the schedule and teachers from around Ananda worldwide. So get used to the fact that we were going to have a lot of variety here and a lot of people adding to our Sangha and the possibilities that we have here. And then this week we have our yoga on Wednesday night. Lori Chadwick has added another yoga class, so on Saturdays now we have a yoga class as an option, and let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Join us every week if you want to. After service, we have snacks in the classroom across the way, and please ask questions if you want to. Thank you for being here.